Today, I've decided to take a look at every Mighty Morphin Power Rangers episode ever, and yes, I have a lot of self-esteem issues. Despite Power Rangers being one of my favorite franchises, I'm not fond of the original series, both in quality and how the behind-the-scenes production shenanigans went down, but that's a story for another time. Will this watch-through make me find a newfound appreciation for the classics, or will it just reinforce my belief that MMPR boomers are holding Power Rangers' future back? Let's find out as we tackle every episode of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Graphics look like they were drawn by a 4-year-old with the talents of Pablo Picasso in his prime, which is what I would have said if I liked the graphics.
Episode 1 is a fine introduction to the characters and recurring elements of the series. The ending is kinda rushed since it's trying to squeeze some oddly paced action scenes and Megazord introductions to the last few minutes, which feels like an excuse to show the merchandise early, but it's still a solid pilot that gives us a nice springboard for future episodes. Episode 2 has a crazy action maneuver during a civilian fight, and the Monster of the Week is one of the coolest designs of the season, but other than that, it's a pretty average episode. Like, if you googled a basic Power Rangers episode, this would be one of the results. Episode 3 is the start of a tried-and-true tradition for the Mighty Morphin Rangers, and that's for the protagonists to be good Samaritans that support causes in need. Other than the introduction of the Rangers' individual weapons, it's not that noteworthy. Episode 4 is the Battle of King Sphinx, which is a cool design, and I like how he uses the Gust attack to remove the Rangers from battle to force Jason to fight him mano-on-mano, but outside of Jason doing some raps, I didn't really care for this one. Episode 5 is Bulk busting some sick dance moves, so 10 out of 10 episode automatically. Other than that, I like the Character of the Week using sign language to communicate with others and it being useful to the resolution. That was neat. Episode 6 is all about the dangers of gluttony, starring one of the most memorable monsters in the franchise, Pudgy Pig. It was okay. Episode 7 is the first instance of a Child of the Week plot in Power Rangers. I don't like this one. Like, child plots aren't inherently bad, but most of the time they just don't feel right. Episode 8 has 90s VR technology, and that's everything interesting about this episode besides Guy being the Monster of the Week. Episode 9 has the funniest Monster of the Week yet, Tickle Sneezer. I love this dude. He just collects whatever's in his way as he bumbles around with a funny voice. Honestly, he single-handedly made this the best episode of the show so far, despite it all being revealed to be a dream by treaty. Oops. Episode 10 is a lame everyone is planning a surprise party for me but I'm left in the dark so I'm sad plot. It's not that good, which is disappointing since Zach is one of the more fun characters in the cast. Episode 11 has clowns and stranger danger messages, and that's all I got. It's kinda boring. Episode 12 has Vor, so you know it's gonna be a strange one. I always rewatched this episode when I was young because I liked the punkified Billy and Kim featured, and I'm happy to report that they're still cheesily entertaining to this day, so it's a fine episode. Episode 13 is lame except for Bulk and Skull's funny disguise glasses. Episode 14 is kind of an interesting change of place, with half of the episode being on a plane, but that's about all I gotta say. Episode 15 has a character called Uncle Howard, meaning it has to be good, right? Right? Well, sorta. Like, it still has the MMPR twang, but Billy's motivation of wanting to be a better fighter makes sense for his character, and Uncle Howard's a fun guy. Episode 16 is such a nothing body swap plot, and that's all I gotta say on it. Episodes 17 through 21 are the Green with Evil saga, which introduces Tommy Oliver as the Green Ranger, starting off as a rival ranger, but joins them by the end of this 5-parter. As much shit I'll talk about Tommy worshippers and Jason David Frank, he is a pretty cool antagonist in these episodes, and I can understand how he initially became a fan favorite. Even our current rangers are challenged more than usual, like with Jason vs. Goldar or Billy working with Command Center tech, and it remains an iconic part of the show for good reason. It still has the growing pains of season 1 of awkward editing around the Sentai footage, but this is still a major step up from every episode so far. Episode 22 is the best episode so far because of the villains. Shell Shock is one of the most memorable monsters of the week with some kooky yet cool powers, and it's nice to see Squad Babu do things. Episode 23 is the second episode in a row where Tommy is distracted by practicing karate and is too dumb to realize that he needs to help his friends. Why do people like him again? That's all I got for this one. Episode 24 was an episode. Episode 25 is actually funny and has one of my favorite stock plots, costume parties. Alpha gets girls, Bulk and Skull's Elvet Spits are stupidly charming, and it's generally a dumb fun episode, which has always been welcomed in Power Rangers. Episode 26 has Titanus. Episode 27 was also boring. Next. Episode 28 through 29 is a 2-parter about the Island of Illusion, which is all about the Rangers facing their fears with clips from past episodes. The one that sticks out to me the most is Kimberly being afraid of Bulk and Skull being nice, which doesn't reflect well on her character, especially how the duo would grow as characters throughout the show. I don't think it warrants its existence as a 2-parter, but it's okay. Episode 30 is Cousin Jeremy's odd dialogue, and man, I'm really stretching for amusing things to talk about in these episodes. We're only halfway through season 1, and I haven't really said said much about each episode, but I'm seriously reaching because there's just nothing of substance to talk about. Episode 31 has Kimberly going through a bad day, like I am watching this middling season. Thank God Twitter exists to tweet my stupid thoughts and quips as I watch this to make this more interesting. Episode 32 was notable for being the last episode of MMPR's 2010 revision. You know, the one with the stupidly hilarious 2003 Hulk movie comic-like effects. That's all I got. Episode 33 is I can't take it anymore! Why did I decide to do this? I can't take this much mid! All I say about these episodes is that it's okay, it's fine, it's boring, can I just watch something on substance? Episodes 34 through 35 is the Green Candle two-parter. Since the Green Ranger died in Zoo Ranger, there was a limited amount of footage they could use of him, so they had to find a way to write Tommy out of the show in a 90s Christian family-friendly way, so I guess there was a candle conveniently placed in the writer's room to give them this idea. It's a fine, if in hindsight temporary send-off for Tommy, and includes one of the only kisses in Power Rangers, which I would care more about if I actually cared about these characters. Episode 36 is an episode. It has characters, it has fights, it even has music. Episode 37 has some of the best Bulk and Skull bits so far, with them making stupid funny videos. A concept so good they would adapt it into the modern day as a regular subplot in the Boom comics, so I guess it's worthwhile. Episode 38 finally restores my soul because it's legitimately entertaining. I don't know if it's the Evil Ranger duplicates or the funny scenes in detention, but I legitimately think this is a good episode and the stuff I wanted from MMPR instead of boredom. Or maybe it's just Stockholm Syndrome taking effect. I don't know. Episodes 39 through 40 were originally going to be the end of Season 1, and for a proposed finale, it's okay, though it is weird seeing Tommy being humble and letting other characters share the spotlight. Unfortunately for me, this was a proposed finale and not the actual finale, because we still have another 20 episodes of Season 1 to go. That's the second joke in this video I did that's cutting off my scream. When Mighty Morphin Power Rangers debuted in August of 1993, it was an instant smash hit. The ratings were high, toys were selling out, and there was a demand for more, so Saban commissioned Toei to make new Zyuranger-based fight scenes to use in a new batch of 20 episodes, which would be called Zyu 2, though some of these fights would also be used in Season 2. Side note, apparently the production staff had no idea what the hell they were doing for the first 40 episodes, and it was only till the Zyu 2 stuff that the show had a series bible, which are kind of important for any show ever. Anyway, let's get back to the show and wrap up Season 1. Episode 41 has plants. That's all I got. Episode 42 is the return of Pudgy Pig, and that's also all I got. Episode 43 is a cool fish monster, and Billy has to overcome his fear of fishes. Again, that's all of note I got. Help me. Episode 44 is all about sports, athleticism. Come on, kids. Don't you want to get buff like these cool kids, don't ya? Also, Zach has a Spider-Man moment where he has to ditch his date to fight a monster, which is a pretty cool idea that I wish we saw more of in PR. Episode 45 is a scene of bros being bros, and I think that's pretty neat. Also, Bulk and Skull drive the Megazord in a dream, and that's kind of funny. Episode 46 has the threat of Ernie's juice bar shutting down, and I completely forgot that was a threat all throughout the episode until its ending. Episode 47 has the characters falling out a time capsule to open 100 years later, and I'm sorry to report that not only does the future suck 30 years later, according to Time Force, the future will suck 100 years later. Episode 48 is okay, but what really gets me is that Bulk and Skull attempt to do cockroach karate, which makes me ask, is that a Kamen Rider reference, or is that me being tired from binging this series for like 5 days straight? Episodes 49 through 50 feature the return of Tommy Oliver, because now they aren't limited by Sentai footage, so the show can bring him back for a while. This is a pretty eventful episode, with the Rangers' parents being captured, and Goldar's being a cheeky prick by doing a trade for the power coins in exchange for the parents, and then he's like, nah, and it cracks me up every time. This also provides a decent reason to bring back Tommy for a while. Episode 51 is a bee monster, and at least we're almost done of the season. Almost. Episode 52 has a neat concept of Tommy and Jason teaching a woman's self-defense course, but as usual with MMPR Season 1, the overall episode just bores me despite any neat conceptual things. Episode 53 is an episode where Zach babysits children and impresses his date. Neat. Episode 54 is a neat concept and is entertaining, with Kimberly competing in a fun Double Dare-esque Halloween game show. Oh yeah, it also has that wacky pumpkin rapper who got a Lightning Collection figure before Ninja Storm, RPM, or Steal from Beast Morphin, so I'm kind of salty at him. Episode 55 is about a kid who likes soccer. He doesn't get on the soccer team at first, then he does. It all ends happily. Please let me go. Episode 56 features Tommy and Jason being pissy at each other because of a spell, but then they aren't. Ha ha ha, what a story, Mark. Episode 57 has the Lizinator doing a Dollar Store Arnold impression, and after all the middling episodes I just sat through, I'll take it and then some. Yes, it's a mid-Arnold impression, but let me have this. Episode 58 is about Tommy making the football team, and I don't care! Episode 59 has some cool fights against Clone Rangers, but it's otherwise mid. Episode 60 is the last episode of Season 1, and has Zach getting some earrings for his girlfriend, but uh-oh, they're cursed, and Zach gets to wear the Dragon Shield for a bit. And now I'm done! I'm freaking done! Oh wait, there's 2 other seasons and a miniseries to go. Damn it. Overall, I don't think Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 1 is a good show. Some of it's because it was the first of its kind in terms of adaptation, some of it's because the crew was thinking they would have to dumb down the comedy and characterization to appeal to children, when other shows at the time like Batman the Animated Series, Spider-Man the Animated Series, and even the darn Tick Animated Series prove you didn't have to do that for kids to enjoy your show. I'm gonna say it, the first season of Power Rangers feels like what an overprotective mother in the 90s would get her children because she thought Batman was too violent. I do appreciate that the characters can be seen as role models to the target audience, with a lot of episodes featuring the Rangers teaching classes and doing good around the neighborhood, but in 60 episodes, I didn't really get attached to anyone outside of Trini and Zach, who both coincidentally got the most unintentionally racist end of the stick when it comes to their colors. Gonna be honest, pals, Power Rangers is the best of representation in the early seasons, especially for the amount of stereotypes present when Asian martial arts and other one-off diverse characters are brought up. Some of this could just be due to accidental ignorance, but knowing how terrible Saban productions end up being behind the scenes, I don't accept that excuse. On the technical side, while the fight scenes are great, both original and Sentai footage, the editing is wonky when trying to mix both together, though I could semi-excuse that since this is the first time something like this was attempted. Though the music for MMPR is legendary for a good reason. It's like the classic Doom soundtrack, but somehow even more hype. I do kinda respect this season for starting the franchise I hold near and dear to my heart, but this was a bore to go back to, and I really don't understand all the MMPR boomers who want this and just this from the franchise. If anything, this watch through made me appreciate the Boom comics for how infinitely more interesting they are, even when they do slip up. Not off to a good start. Will Season 2 be an improvement? Let's find out.
I could have sworn we were going to Six Flags, considering I'm already in the car, and we're going to Six Flags!
Episodes 1 through 3, The Mutiny, introduces Lord Zed, one of my favorite Power Rangers villains from this era just for the design alone, but I quite like his menacing yet quick to anger personality as well. It still blows my mind that his design is a Power Rangers original creation, especially when they were just starting out. The introduction of the Thunder Swords are pretty cool, and technically is our first Sentai switch despite the suits not changing. It's admittedly a solid beginning for the season. Episode 4 is an alpha-focused episode where the poor robot almost dies. At least there's a funny fight with a monkey. Episode 5 has Zack and Billy thinking their friends are putties, which admittedly leads to some nice visual gags. Episode 6 is kind of a nothing episode about Kimberly feeling sad that nobody is joining her flower club. Next. Episode 7 is a fine episode, but I think what stands out more here is the ending. This is the first non-two-parter to have a downer ending, with Tommy realizing his time as a Ranger is almost up. I did not expect this at all, but it's a nice surprise. Episode 8 is an episode, and I have nothing to say about it. Episode 9 is kind of important because it introduces the rival school of Stone Canyon, which will be important for later in the season, but other than that, it's a meh episode. Episode 10 is another episode I have nothing to say about. Oops. Episode 11 has Kim writing a song for Tommy since his renewed power is almost out. And I'll admit, this subplot is wholesome, but the rest of the episode is just there. Episodes 12 and 13 is the two-parter where Tommy loses his renewed powers, but who the hell cares when it's time for the Dark Rangers to debut? Yes, they only appear in this episode, their costumes are cheap and ridiculous, and they don't actually fight anyone, but I don't care. I love these dweebs and I wish they showed up more. I was very happy when Dino Fury referenced these suckers unironically and with no comedic irony. Episode 14 is quite interesting, as Jason is beating himself up for being unable to save the Green Ranger powers, which fits with his goals of doing everything in a near-perfect way. It's a decent episode to show how cool of a leader Jason could be and how much potential he had as a character that just wasn't acted on in the original series. Episode 15 has Cousin Curtis, and that's all I got. Episode 16 has Kimberly becoming Rita for a bit, and it's quite funny, but is that Skull dressed as Jotaro from JoJo's? Episode 17 and 18 is the White Light two-parter, where Tommy becomes the White Ranger. I kind of find it lame that Zordon just makes the White Ranger powers instead of going on a quest for the new power unlike later events, but I'll admit I have nostalgia for this episode since I watched it a lot on a Best of Power Rangers compilation DVD. I also really like the White Ranger's aesthetics from Die Ranger, and it surprisingly fits well with the Zoo Ranger suits. It's a fun two-parter, and the only thing I'm really nostalgic for in MMPR. Episode 19 is Kimberly's purse come to life as a monster, and that's fun. I like this. Episode 20 is the monster of the week messing with the gravitational pull of Earth itself. That's pretty cool, and thanks for another decent episode. Episode 21 is the mysterious absence of Jason, Zack, and Trini. This is at the time their actors left the show because of pay disputes, so they only showed up in either suit, through past footage, or sound-alikes until the replacements came in. Despite that, this is an okay episode. Episodes 22 through 24 are the Ninja Encounter 3-parter, which introduces Rocky, Adam, and Aisha. I know some fans complain about the baby stroller chase scene in part 1, but that's a brand of earnestly dumb comedy that I love out of Power Rangers, and shows our new trio as good Samaritans. This is a nice story that sends up the eventual power transfer without doing so right away. Episode 25 is yet another episode where Billy gets a love interest, and I know I haven't brought that up a lot, but he gets a lot of one-off flings in this season, and it's weird and I don't like it because you can do so much more of that character than girls like him. Episode 26 is a very fun episode, where the monster of the week, who speaks like a radio announcer, starts brainwashing the citizens of Angel Grove. Honestly, this episode is gold, both from the monster's fantastic personality and Skull saying Fred instead of Zed. Episodes 27 and 28 are the power transfer arc, which not only officially promotes Rocky, Adam, and Aisha to Rangers, but also has the introduction of the awesome Serpentera, which is one of the coolest swords ever. I mean, it destroyed an entire planet, which did drain all of its batteries, but that's so cool. It's a fine two-parter, if a bit clunky of how it removes Jason, Zack, and Trini from the plot with the whole peace conference chick and rushing their goodbyes. Episode 29 is the brief return of Scorpiona, who is so important and memorable to the show, I haven't mentioned anything about her till now. Episode 30 is lame, not gonna lie. Goldar uses the Mirror of Regret to show Adam his traumatic past to drain his confidence, and that traumatic past is him failing to make the soccer team as a wee lad. At least it was entertaining, even if not good. Episode 31 is a mostly dull episode of the Rangers forgetting their memories, but it's slightly memorable because Bulk and Skull actually save the Rangers in this episode, which is a nice advancement of their character outside of being bullies or trying to find out the secret identity of the Rangers. Episode 32 has Ernie installing a pachinko machine, which Rocky gets obsessed with, which then turns into a monster, and everyone hates it, but I actually really find this episode entertaining, actually. Screw you. It actually gives Rocky a unique personality trait that isn't, I'm a good guy, something he lacked before. Unfortunately, this characterization just comes and goes throughout the show instead of being a consistent part of his presence. Still a fun episode though. Episode 33 is a cute episode about the Rangers going on television and doing a talk show, but I really hate one of the ending lines where someone says that education could lead to world peace. Altruistic 90s morals at their finest, everybody. Episode 34 is about firefighters, while also being the return of boredom because this was a boring episode. Episode 35 should be fun because it's about scavenger hunt, and scavenger hunts are fun, but it's just really dull. Episode 36 makes me want to sleep. Episode 37. Episode 38 actually brings up a natural fear that a kid in Angel Grove would have, being scared of swimming because of monsters. It's a decent concept, I'll admit, even if the rest of the episode is just okay. Episodes 39 and 40 bring the total episode count to 100, and what does the show do to celebrate such a grand milestone? We turn the Rangers into children who can't morph. And they do this again in Season 3. This is lame. Episodes 41 through 43 has Lord Zed taking a nap, and god I wish that was me. The Rangers temporarily moved to Australia because that's where the movie was being filmed, and just spend the episode in a giant mansion anyway. It's a nice change of scenery though. But of course, the main appeal of this episode is Rita's comeback and marriage of Lord Zed, which like most of the villain hijinks in the show was wacky but very entertaining. Evil Alpha is also strangely adorable. Episodes 44 through 46 has the return of the Green Ranger, which is pretty obvious fan service to see both of Tommy's Ranger powers fight each other since he was the most popular character at the time. The conflict is pretty cool, especially with the return of the Dragon Zord, but everything else around the episode is boring, even with giant rat costumes and time travel. Episode 47 is fun, with Tommy and Kimberly comedically bickering at each other while fighting for the student presidency, and it actually ends on a surprisingly wholesome note. I'm sure the Tommy and Kim shippers love this one. Episodes 48 and 49 is the lame Storybook Rangers two-parter that didn't need to be a two-parter. Episodes 50 and 51 are the second multi-parter this season as the Rangers going back in time and doing weird hijinks. What the hell? Worst part is, I know the Wild West Ranger suits are going into the Lightning Collection before RPM and Ninja Storm, even though this is another boring episode. Episode 52 is the end of Season 2, and it's just another episode where someone falls in love with Billy, which is like the 10th time this season. It's a weird note to end the season on, and kinda creepy, given that the love interest of this episode makes a statue of Billy without his permission. Overall, Season 2 is better than Season 1 by like 0.2 or 5%. There's a lot of unnecessary multi-parters that drag in this season, but there's still some fun dumb episodes that made this watch through more tolerable than Season 1's. Probably wouldn't sit through any of these episodes again though. While the heroes are arguably even blander than Season 1, since Adam, Rocky, and Aisha don't really have unique personalities outside of whatever their focus episodes give them, and even then they really only retain those personality traits in the focus episode. The evildoers are highly entertaining thanks to the introduction of Zed shaking up the dynamic between them. And Bulk and Skull's shtick are funnier, though I'm not the biggest fan of their subplot this season, which is trying to find the Rangers' identity. That works better for a one-off episode than the entire season. The music still bangs this season, even including more vocal background tracks, something modern Power Rangers needs some more of. I still don't like MMPR by the end of Season 2, even if it is more tolerable than Season 1. Now, I remember Season 3 being my favorite out of the 3 MMPR seasons when I was young, so will that opinion hold true as I rewatch it?
If you want to be a cop, then you got to get in shape. Gotta jump a 6-foot wall, gotta swim a giant lake.
Episodes 1 through 3 featured the infamous Masked Rider in a crossover tie promotion for his then upcoming show. Honestly, it presents a lot of cool ideas for the Masked Rider series that aren't actually used in that series in favor of wacky family sitcom plots. Not a great start to the season, which isn't helped by Bulk and Skull getting one of their lamer subplots of trying to impress girls by pretending to be the Rangers, which doesn't lead to much funny material. Episodes 4 through 7, the Ninja Quest, is the true start of the season, and it did not need to be a 4-parter, but hey, it's fun because it introduces Rito and Ninjor, two of my favorite characters in MMPR, since they're simultaneously both really cool and really funny. I wish they had Lightning Collection figures already instead of civilian Andros, but maybe sometime soon. Despite my love for Kaku Rangers aesthetics, I hate the original dollar store ninja costumes they made to tie into them. I really despise these looks, not just because Tommy looks like a member of a problematic organization in his white ninja garb, but they also replaced most of the Ranger fight scenes in this season, and in a show called Power Rangers, I want to see the Power Rangers, not dollar store ninjas. Otherwise, this is a bloated but solid story. Episode 8 has Kim almost moving to France, but then she doesn't, and that's it. I guess the Rangers losing color was an interesting idea, but that idea isn't used interestingly. Episode 9 involves lanterns, and by God it does. Episode 10 has Rocky and his teacher switching places, which is bizarre and not in a fun way. Episode 11 is about football again. Now, football's a sport I hate playing, but I love watching comedy content for it, so this was a fun one for me since they lean more on the comedy side than the dramatic side. Though the episode ends with an oddly shoehorned PSA on dyslexia, which could have been told at literally any point of the episode. Putting it at the end just makes it come across as performative. Episodes 12 and 13 did not need to be a 2-parter. There's nothing special about it, just Zed makes the Rangers pricks for a bit. It's boring and petted out despite Zed and Rita's honeymoon subplot being funny. Episode 14 has the monster stealing faces and my sanity. Please let it end! Episode 15 is about love potions, a plot device that always makes everything uncomfortably horny. As such, I don't really like this one. Episode 16 is a Christmas special that has way too many scenes of children poorly singing. Hooray! At least this marks the first time Santa Claus appeared in the Power Rangers universe, which is fun, but as a non-Christmas celebrator who enjoys Christmas specials, this is nothing for me. Episode 17 through 18 introduces our eventual replacement pick ranger, Cat, who can transform into a cat. Ha! Until she becomes a ranger, she is currently working with the villains to hatch evil schemes, which is a cool idea, having a character play double agent as a friend to the Rangers, but actually is a friend to the villains, but this first scheme is just teleport Tommy to our lair. It's not even that effective as other Rangers at the villain-based schemes, because Tommy can morph and easily escapes them. A lame start for a cool concept. Episodes 19 through 21 introduces the secondary Megazord of the season, the Shogun Megazord, which is a very cool design, and while there are cool moments in the story, like Zed entering the command center and his fight with Tommy, it still ends up being kind of a bore. Granted, I've consumed so much MMPR in so little time that I could be very fatigued, but I still feel confident in my opinion. The story does have lasting stakes with Kim's powers being temporarily stolen, but I don't care. Tell me, what personality traits does someone like Rocky or Adam have that wasn't dictated by a one-off episode? Not even Tommy has much personality outside of being a leader and boyfriend to Kim. And that's not even personality traits, that's just things he does. I want to like and care about the show like the boomers do, but I just can't bring myself to do. It's just not vibing with me. As for episode 22, it's surprisingly good. The shark cycles and taxi monster are fun stuff, but the episode even gives time to give some background pathos for Cat. Granted, the pathos is crumbs, but I haven't had much substance for the last few days, so let me have this. Episodes 23 through 25 is the official switch over to Cat as the Pink Ranger, and it's pretty decent. It's a much grander send-off than what Jason, Zach, and Trini got, and not to mention, I actually like Cat more than Kim, because she's quite cunning as both a hero and villain. Probably one of my favorite Rangers in these 3 seasons, which might be an unpopular opinion, oops. Episode 26 is about Tommy getting gluttonous. This is one of the best episodes in MMPR. This is cheesy fun that I wanted more out of this series instead of boredom, stock plots, and boredom. Episode 27 is a wholesome episode where Cat helps the community, but then a brick monster turns Rangers into bricks. Shenanigans ensue. Episode 28 has a chimp as the focus, and as we all know, any kind of chimp is very funny, so this is another banger, which just reinforces Cat's place as the best Ranger of the series, because ever since her debut, I've actually been enjoying the show. Episodes 29 through 31 is a good 3-parter where Rita's dad, Master Vile, plots a giant scheme and a fun dance party to conquer Earth. I know some fans hate the metallic armor introduced, since it's just a glitter recolor of the base suits, but they're harmless enough and much better than the ninja suits, that's for certain. It's a fine multi-parter to end the season on, oh wait, we have 2 more episodes to go. What? Episode 32 is an episode where the Power Rangers dance gift comes from, but other than that, it's okay. Episode 33 is the final episode of Season 3, and I hate it so much, despite the chill first half. Most of my dislike comes from what it sets up for the upcoming mini-series of episodes, which I'll get to in a bit, but even though those episodes didn't exist, I don't like that the thing that beats the Rangers is turning them into children. Something they've already done before in Season 2. That's lame as hell. Once all said and done, Season 3 is the best season of MMPR by default. Still not good though. While I love characters like Kat, Ninja, and Rito, the rest of the characters still remain pretty boring. Not to mention, most of the episodes are still boring despite a few gems. I guess if you had to watch one season of MMPR, I'd recommend Season 3, but it's still not a great show that I would recommend easily. Unfortunately, we're not done, as the Alien Rangers miniseries is technically part of MMPR, so I guess we're gonna review that before we piss out. Episodes 1 and 2 suck. The child actors replacing the main characters are very insufferable of the awkward way they are instructed to deliver their lines, and despite the great suits, the Alien Rangers have no unique characterization outside of, I am Ranger, I need water cause alien, I must fight. Episode 3 is the anticlimactic destruction of the power coins, and at least Billy's an adult again. Episode 4 is boring, and why is it that the most personality these godforsaken Alien Rangers show is when they're just eating food? Episode 5 is Bulk turning into a monster, and it was slightly more tolerable than the last few episodes. Episode 6 starts the main reason why I was dreading this miniseries, the Zeo Quest subplot. You see, each of the kidified Rangers have to go collect a part of the Zeo Crystal to become Power Rangers again. Not only do you have to sit with the poorly directed kid actors, but these quests involve some lame stereotypes of whatever culture the crystal is located at. It's not great in this episode and only gets worse from here. Episode 7 has Asian stereotypes for the Zeo Quest of the week, and I still hate it, big shock. At least a webbed up lab is a cool aesthetic to hunt a monster in. Episode 8 has the first instance of the white as hell Tommy Oliver being connected to Native American culture and stereotypes for some reason. Worst part about this plotline? The writers remember it as it comes back in Zeo, so I have to deal with this grossness again soon. There's not even many action scenes to distract me in this episode like usual. Episodes 9 and 10 are the end of this miniseries and MMPR in general, and what a way to piss out. Aisha decides to send an untrained kid named Tanya to the command center instead of herself when she finds the Zeo Crystal because she needs to quote-unquote help the animals in the area, aka to decide to replace her actress for reportedly no reason. When Tanya comes over to the command center, she's all grown up, which has to be screwing of her in some way, shape, or form. This actor swap is probably the worst they've done in terms of writing it into the show, and it's just a cherry on top of this god-awful Zeo Quest plotline. The rest of the episode is middling otherwise, till we get to the end of the episode, where the command center freaking explodes, which is the legitimate end of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I actually find this quite funny, as the team has been taking losses all season, and I guess because the writers were having a bad week when they were assigned to write these plots, they just take one last major loss at the end. Overall, Alien Rangers sucks. It's a bad final few episodes for Mighty Morphin, a terrible standalone series, and a miserable time in general, especially during the cultural insensitive Zeo Quest bits. So, what did we learn from watching and reviewing every Mighty Morphin Power Rangers episode? Well, my respect for this season has gone lower than it ever has before. For me, MMPR is such a boring product of its time in the worst ways. I wish I could find some appeal in it, but I just can't bring myself to find much value or entertainment in this show. And I get that it's episodic. That's not my problem with the show. My problem is that those episodic plots are boring. I don't even find it stupidly funny most of the time like a lot of audiences do. Yes, it has those moments, but not enough of them to make the entire show noteworthy or entertaining for such things. MMPR is mostly just stock all ages plots with little variation or spice, which made for a tedious week binging it all. At least I can say to all the bearded boomers who get up in arms when I mention MMPR oversaturation as a problem with the brand that I actually watched the show front to back and found it mid. But at what cost? My time? My appreciation for good art? My McDonald's coupon? I would not recommend Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and I especially wouldn't recommend being like me watching every episode of this over 100 episode show in 1 week. That is the biggest mistake I've ever made, and I'm still suffering for it. And I'm gonna need a break before I go through the rest of the seasons. Give me a sec.